just 2 screws undone from the bottom, and the lid comes off, and there we have the inside workings of it. Quite interesting looking system. A solenoid valve on there, onto don't know which is water and which is gas, so copper piping comes in, a very large cast heat exchanger inside. There is another boiler that I've got hold of, and then this plastic. So this obviously isn't getting to too high temperature, and this must be the, would that be the flue gases, or would that be the air going in? I suspect that the plastic will be for air going into it, not for gases coming out. And then I presume that's a motor and fan, but I don't know. Okay, let's see where we get to with this. A couple more screws and it frees off the control panel, which can now be removed. A thought is just crossing my mind. The problem is, I believe this is a fully functioning machine, but I've not seen it running because it wasn't mine. I may have to go and talk to my neighbour, because maybe I can fund part of my hobby by selling some of the components of this. I nearly did that with the dishwasher. Not dishwasher, what was it? Yeah, dishwasher, because I didn't have space for dishwasher. I have no dishwasher because of such a small kitchen. However, the scrapmen took it while I was in the process of stripping it down, and I took my eye off it for a moment. And I'd already sold some parts of it on eBay, and I had to tell the people they couldn't have the parts because the scrapmen had taken it. So that's not plugged into anything. That seems to be spare. Let's have a look. Believe it or not, I've picked up 2 central heating boilers. This one is much heavier, and you can see it's got this heavy cast heat exchanger. This is that you can't easily see the difference between the plastic things, which are the flues, and I'm presuming that this plastic is the air intake flue to the bottom of the heat exchanger, and this here then, now that I can see it, looks like it's gas inlet. Wow, but it could just be water. Right, no point me saying what it is until I actually know. What I can see is down there at the bottom is a plastic container with the tubing that comes out here, which is that drain thing from all the drips that come out, I believe, from the pressure relief valve on these things. What I want to do is to try and disconnect the wires from the control panel. So there are 2 black wires coming out of the control panel. No, one black wire coming out of the control panel to a contact on here. That goes back to a contact down there on that pipe. So it was a series connection. Sorry. Perhaps I should just search the internet and find out about these things. But that box there is connected by this black cable to a probe type device here. I'm getting in the way of my own light. But that device into the top of the heat exchanger, so it could be something to ignite the gas or to check that the gas is still working. That's up clearly green and yellow. So I suspect this is an HT lead, and that's a clicker to ignite the gas, sending an HT signal down into that probe in there. I suspect that's what that is. I know which the two water pipes are because water has come out of them, and that's fairly straightforward. And so it looks like this pipe here is the gas pipe, and then the flow of gas is controlled by that solenoid, and presumably that's some sort of mixing fan to mix the gas and air to create a combustible mixture. We'll see where that goes. Well, a reasonable guess. So that was the gas inlet pipe, and this says something on it about air gas ratio of 1:1. It's an Italian made solenoid gas valve of some sort. If the gas comes in through here, presumably the air comes in through that black plastic tube, and they are sucked into the combustion chamber with an impeller, which is clearly visible spinning inside there, and then that will go down into the combustion chamber. So there we have it, fed in from the top, and so presumably the exhaust comes out from the bottom, but the exhaust tube is plastic as well, if that's right, which means they're expecting that all the heat generated within this heat exchanger is passed through into the water, and so that the burnt hot gases coming out are cool enough not to melt plastic. That's quite amazing. Anyway, we'll see about that. We'll see where we get to with it. I think we're about there. I did say I thought this was well engineered. Well, with a couple more bolts, the boiler part itself, or the heat exchanger, is freed from the metal back of this. I'm going to split that joint down there. I couldn't get to the screws on that one. There you'll see the cast elbow joint, which taps to the top of the heat exchanger, and some quick release connector to connect it to the copper tubing. Not sure how easy it would be to do that. It seems to be fairly well fixed, the copper tubing. That I'm pretty sure now is the ignition. Let's call it the electronic ignition. Spark. So overall, not a lot copper tubing I can get anywhere, nuts and things like that. Not a lot that I can see which is of use for modelling purposes. Plastic piping I can get in all sorts. The metal that the casing is made of is quite substantial. It's a good heavyweight, heavy gauge metal. It's not cheap and nasty. The sides and the front are made of quite substantial steel plate, and so if I wanted some steel, there's some steel there, and I'm presuming this is galvanized, so there's some galvanized steel for the back there. But that, I think, is about it. If I do discover anything else of interest, I will show you. But the other thing that's crossing my mind, I might do a little video to say this, is perhaps I need to start a new channel, because if you're interested in model trains, you certainly don't want to look at me taking a central heating boiler apart. Well, here we have it, a gas central heating boiler broken down into its constituent parts. We have this heavy cast block. It looks like aluminium because of its appearance, but its weight suggests to me that it's cast iron. Be interesting to find out what it actually is. Yes, it certainly feels as hard as cast iron. A fan which blows the gas air mixture in, a mixing valve down there. Oh, I can zoom in. That thing, solenoid on one side of it, which mixes the gas which comes in from the gas pipe and the air which comes in through that. Well, actually, yeah, okay. No, the fan sucks the gas air mixture from there into the boiler. Right, so plastic piping feeds the gas air mixture into the boiler. We found that, I presume it's spark igniter, and that there I think is the gubbins that generates the spark. There's the panel, the control panel for it. I suspect there's not much inside that actually when it comes down to it. The float mechanism for the overflow of condensate, various bits of plumbing, the plastic exhaust, and that's the most surprising thing for me, to find that that's made of plastic. I'd have expected it to be made of something else. There's the plastic tube from the drip, and there we have the ball valve to control the flow of gas into it. So not a great number of components when it comes down to it, but that's the machine, and I don't see much of use in terms of modelling, not yet anyway. Just for interest's sake, this is the top plate, because the combustion takes place from the top down towards the bottom. If it was a really old-fashioned boiler, you'd have the combustion at the bottom and the flue gases, but this is forced air, forced gas, forced convection. So the gas air mixture goes in through there. There's your spark device, and the gas air mixture is forced up through some sort of mesh here along the bottom. Not quite sure what that's made of, whether it performs any catalytic effect or if it's just a good way. So no pilot light or anything in this. Obviously, as soon as the gas air mixture starts flowing, you get the ignition and then you get it burning, and then inside there you've got the combustion chamber and the heat exchanger, and that then conducts the heat through this cast block into the water, and then that goes down from the top. Hold on, is that right? Yes, that goes down from the top, and then at the bottom you have this, which is the plastic exhaust manifold, as it were, which fits across the whole bottom of the device. And if I swing round, and I've got some granules or something. Now there's moisture in there because there's a moisture drain from that thing which sits on the bottom where the exhaust comes out, and the dirt and granules that come out certainly are not oxidized iron. If anything, it's oxidized alloy, or aluminium. So maybe in spite of its weight, that is a castic aluminium. And there you see the bottom, but this is where the hot gas ends up coming through, and all you see is ribs of heat exchanger. So a very tight mesh or connection of things. So there's quite a lot of metal inside there. Well, there we have it. A deconstructed gas boiler.